Okay, let's continue on with this web development example. Remember last time we talked about the HTML page structure. We set up our whole folder stuff here, right? The 2018-19 CS10 or whatever year you're in, web development. Web dev skills is my project. And to open this, I can just open this inside of my browser, right? Index.html, that opens it up. Okay, we also were using Visual Studio Code, which I still have open here. If you had it closed, just remember you can just search here and go Visual Studio Code to open it up. And then, oh, see, it remembers the last project I had open. But if it doesn't, usually what I do is just take this folder, right, with all my project folder with all the stuff in it, take this entire folder, drag it in here, and it'll open up that folder. Okay. So we've got our index.html and our style.css. We'll work on our styles later, but today we're going to focus, or in this video, we're going to focus more on more content here. So I'm going to do a bunch of typing here, and I'm going to get rid of these H1 and P tags. And you saw how the H1 was bigger. That's because it's a heading, and the paragraph is just regular text. HTML does that. Those tags specify kind of what type of content it is, and the browser has some default styles that it applies. But I'm going to try it without any of those tags first. So let's just type our content in like we would in a regular Word document, and let's see what happens. So my title is going to be Web Development Skills, and I want to have a subtitle called Learn HTML. Oh dear, we got some, some automatic. This thing's good at coding for me, so it wants to abbreviate stuff for me. Anyway, so I just hit space so it didn't do that. So learn HTML, and I'm going to say HTML. Oh, that's okay. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is the content of a web page. Let's hit enter here. Examples of HTML include headings, paragraphs, images, links, right? So you can link to different web pages, lists, etc. Images, or sorry, videos, sound, all sorts of stuff. And then we talked, I showed you quickly the W3 Schools, right? And that has an HTML tutorial. So in my content, I'd like to have a link there that'll say, check out the HTML tutorial on w3schools.com. And I'll show you to make that a link later. What? It did something. Okay, we don't want to do that right now. Okay, so you see, this is the problem with trying to treat this document as a Word document, because it thinks I'm doing stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing. Okay. All right, so that's my main title. Maybe to make sure that we know this is main, let's do it all caps. Web Development Skills, Learn HTML. Check out that. Cool. So that's the first skill. And I'm going to do a little line here. And then we'll go to the next skill we need, which is CSS. So learn CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is the style of the web page. Examples of CSS include font styles and color, background color and images and stuff, borders, dimensions, layout, etc. And again, we'll do a little check out the CSS tutorial on w3schools.com. All right, and then we'll do this thing again. Wonderful. And the last skill we're going to learn in this course, right, HTML, CSS, we're also going to learn JavaScript. JavaScript is the programming language of the web. JavaScript helps to make web pages interactive and dynamic. Some common JavaScript tasks are, and we'll do a little list here. JavaScript can help us add new HTML to the page, right? So you could dynamically add something new. You can change what's on the page, so change the existing content /style. And you can react, oops, I want to make a list here, react to user events, such as mouse clicks, key presses, etc. Okay, and again, check out the JavaScript tutorial on W3 Schools does have a JavaScript tutorial, but I found a nicer one that I like, javascript.info. And it's a little more modern, I think. And that'll be my main content. And maybe I want to add an image in here somewhere, like the HTML logo, CSS, and JavaScript logos onto the page somewhere. But we'll add those images later. For now, let's take a look and see if I save this and go back to the file that I had open, right? WebDivSkills index.html. I don't see my changes. I have to hit refresh. And when I hit refresh, this is what I get. Okay. So this is an important thing to see, is that when you're writing HTML, all the visible content is inside of the body, which it is, right? The body starts up there and ends over here. So all the visible content is there. But HTML ignores white spaces and enters, right? If I hit enter, it doesn't care. If I were to put a ton of spaces between here like this, save it, go here and hit refresh, it just ignores. It only does one space. It ignores any extra spaces. Okay, so that's something interesting with HTML. In order to tell the web browser what we want this text to look like, we have to use our HTML tags. And that's where if we go here, this HTML basic, it talks about, again, the page structure, but headings. If I have a start tag and an end tag, an H1 or an H2 or an H3, it tells the importance of the heading. I can do paragraphs, so it gives it a little bit of space. I can do links with these A tags, image tags. Okay, so that's HTML. These tags are really important. Okay. So let's start introducing those and you'll see what it'll look like. So first of all, headings. H1 doesn't mean the first H1 heading. It means the most important heading, the level 1 heading. So this is my main title, Web Development Skills, so I'm going to make that an H1. Then these Learn HTML, Learn CSS, Learn JavaScript, those are all kind of like level 2 headings, right? They're the next level of importance. So I'm going to call those H2s. Now you'll notice that this editor, normally I wouldn't have this typed out already, right? I would go H2 and then Learn CSS. So it does this kind of autocomplete. It knows that I'm using an HTML document, so it knows when I have a start tag, I usually want to have an end tag along with it. So it auto-completes for me. Okay, so that's my level 1 heading, H1. The start tag is just, like I said, H1 for level 1 heading, and then the end tag is a /H1. The slash representing that it's ending this H1. And it nicely highlights, right? You can see how it highlights where the start and end, where they match together. Okay, this H2 matches with that H2, etc. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. We'll save that. We'll go back to our file and hit refresh. And woo, already that looks a little better. So the web browser by default says, oh, an H1, a level 1 heading, I'm going to make that big and bold and have a margin on top and bottom and let it take up the full width of the screen, right? And then same with the H2s. It says not quite as big and bold, it's still bold, but not quite as large. And it has this margin, it's the only thing allowed on the line, right? It can't have text beside it. So that's already a good start. The other thing that we can do instead of headings is these are paragraphs, right? This is a paragraph, and this is a paragraph. So again, I can do a P tag. Now, unlike headings, headings have an H1, H2, H3 for level 3. There's no P1, P2. You can technically make up your own HTML tags and call them whatever you want, but don't. Okay, use the ones that are generally acceptable because other people need to read your code sometimes, and if you start making up stuff, it's not a good idea. Okay, so a P tag is for any paragraph. So there's the start tag, and I'm going to take the end tag and put it over here. So that's one paragraph, and then this should be another paragraph. So cut and paste that. And we'll talk about this line in a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. Hit refresh again. Cool, so that's my one paragraph, that's my other paragraph. And the line, I guess, is on its own because the paragraph's kind of in the headings push it away. Okay, let's do that with the other ones. So p tag starts there and ends there. Need a new p tag here. Starts and ends there. P tag again. Let's just put that all the way down here. And then another paragraph tag right here. Okay, so I think this is starting to get better. Ooh, but we still got some problems. All right. So another thing that I'll show you is if we go to paragraphs here, shows us these paragraphs, but it also talks, I think, a little bit later on about line breaks. A BR tag is a line break. Okay? So what you'll notice here is that this first paragraph in my text editor in Visual Studio Code, I hit enter here, but the browser just ignored that. So if I wanted to force it to go to the next line here, I could do a BR tag. Now notice the BR tag doesn't have a start and end tag, right? Like the P, open and close, because there's no content inside of it, right? It just says go to the next line, right? A line break. So I can put that there. Maybe I'll put one here as well, and one here as well, so it goes to the next line. Let's put one right here. And then this was really bad too, right? Because all this stuff was all jumbled in one row. I'd like them to each be on their own line. So we should have a BR here, BR at the end of all of these things. And I think that should look better. Let's hit refresh. Okay, this is starting to come together. My main heading, Learn HTML, has this content here, Learn CSS, Learn JavaScript, looking better. Okay, we're obviously going to make this look much nicer. We're not using any styles yet. We haven't added color or backgrounds or images or links. Like there's a lot to do yet. But this is a pretty good start. I think I'm going to end the video here. We talked about, we didn't do horizontal rules. I'll add that quickly. Instead of these lines, there's actually something called an HR tag. And that HR tag basically is a horizontal rule. It'll do a nice line. So let's replace all of those with HRs. And down, I didn't have one down there. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Go back to here, hit refresh. Right, so it gives me this horizontal rule. Okay, and by default it fills the whole width of the screen. We can change its width, but we'll play around with some of that later. If we actually just make this, I should have done this earlier, but if we make this web page a little smaller, sometimes that's nice and we can switch between our stuff a little easier. If I do this. You've got two screens, right? So if you've got two screens, it's nice to be able to, maybe I'll close that. It's nice to be able to have your editor on one screen and then your actual page on the other screen. I can't do that with this video recording, but I recommend you guys do that so you can make your changes and then just jump to the other screen and see what's happening over there. Okay, so a quick recap. This is actually a little annoying. We'll go here. So we looked at headings and horizontal rules. So I'm going to bold that.
Would a custodian please come to the main office?
Pardon the announcements.
Custodian to the main office.
And we also talked about paragraphs and line breaks. Okay. We'll talk about comments and images, and I think we can do comments, images, and links probably in the next video. We'll see how much we get done. Okay, hope that made sense. We've got some decent content here. Yeah, take care and see you in the next video.